All right. So we did I did a video on your wind ring numbers, so you know what your wind ring numbers are for your clubs, and you've got your clubs picked out, so you have bags picked out. Let's go back here for a second. So I'm gonna play some Tour 3 here. We'll just play some Tour 3. So we got Sakura Hills and Namahe Cliffs. So if we go to, where's our Golf Clash notebook? Go to Golf Clash notebook. Knowing thy enemy is half the battle. Sakura Hills. It's looking at Victorian style to see what Victorian style looked like. Horses. Hey, get up there. We are at Sakura Hills and Nahami Park, Nahami Cliffs. Let me get to it first. Let's go check out our what we've got going here. So if you're playing in a brand new tour, this is the island par 3, 10% wind. Add 10% onto the wind. If you're playing this in upper divisions, this is a tough hole because you have to come at this with a driver and you're in between clubs. I played on this hole one time where I laid it up right here and dared my opponent to try and get over, and they ended up on the backside in the drink. And I went first and just laid up right there. This can be a tough hole, but it's 10% to the cup. I know that. This hole right here, it's always best to play off that island. It doesn't take, you really either want to be off the green chipping it on or right by the cup, because this is one of those old par 3s and you can actually get into a spot where you can't get up. This is the island hole. You can actually get a condor on this. You bring out a big enough ball, hit to the island. You want to hit forward on the island on this side, try and bring out a big ball so that you give yourself, if you draw a line here, you got more distance up here, so you can really, if you can use this with like a 4-power ball, but you can use this with a 5-power ball, so you got a little bit more distance. Try and bring it around and get on. There's a spot up here where you can do a really easy chip on, or you can get a condor. You can roll right up to the hole. I actually caught this one time where I was down here and I just barely dribbled out onto the green, and it was a max overpower putt that you can't make. So you can get in a bad spot even on great shots. Hole number 4. Know the courses that you're playing. This hole right here is pretty straightforward. You can get on in one if you bring out the right stuff, but if you bring out a marlin, unless you get some perfect wind, typically it's best to do a layup and give yourself the shot to get in. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, this isn't one of my favorite ones. That's because it's way down in a hole down here. But I don't play, I think I play this, I don't even do any wind adjustment on it. I just play it at max ring, no wind adjustment, and you can get really close. You don't want to dribble off the back of the screen. We'll have to get this one a few times so I can see what the adjustment is. I may do a wind adjustment, but I don't know. But it rolls off really fast on the back. You blow past the green there on this par 3, this shootout, and you're going to be a long ways off. Another straightforward one. You can bounce off that and get over, or you can start off on the green side. Either way. The best way to play it, the most consistent way with the marlin, is to play the white line. You can do the bounce off over here with an overpower shot and end up right out in front and have a nice little chip. During tournament play, that's definitely the way to go at it. This hole right here, I actually lost a tournament because of this hole. I went down into this spot right here and I do a layup. I just lay it up right here and then come at it. Great for a guardian if you got a guardian in your back for that second shot, or a sniper because they got backspin. It'll be a little more difficult with this Viper. The other way to go is you can lay up down here on the end. That's a good, and upper divisions, this is a good viable shot right here. You can also end up over in this area so that you're bouncing off the island to get on. There's a pretty good look at it from the bounce off the island, but that's too low of a percentage shot for me, and it's too risky. You could end up in big trouble. Knowing your holes. It's always good if you're going up to a new tour, go up and look at the holes that are in that tour. This is another hole that I've had an epic fail on. This hole, the cup was right here. Here's the cup, here's the flagpole. My ball was right there. I pulled my ball back and the hole started to glow, and I released and it went half the distance and stopped. So this is the hole when I talk about that I always put my ball guide through the cup when I'm doing putts. This is the hole that ruined my round because of that. You want to get as far up into this area right here as you can on your drive, and you got a shot to get on it too. There's a shadow that sticks out here, and you want to be right up against that, right up to where that shadow's at. There's a little plateau. It starts right here, so it runs up the hill, and then there's a little plateau. If you got too much speed, it'll run up to the top, and then it'll just slide across and end up in the rough. If you don't have a shot, lay up. I've tried many times. I've taken a ton of shots on this hole where I tried to use this cliff, and it's possible, depending on where you can catch it. But like if you're way up here at the top, it's a difficult. It's definitely low percentage. It's best to just play it safe on this and be the deal. That was Nahimi. Cliffs. Let's see Sakura Hills real quick, so I can refresh my memory on those holes. So if you're going to a brand new tour, whatever tour you're on, whatever tour you're playing, go in and look at those holes and think about it, because what you really want to do is you want to kind of match your clubs up with the holes that you're playing. So some of that you're just going to have to go out there and play it, but at least having a visual, like when you get to some of those holes, like these are the holes that you could expect. Let's go back to courses. Go to Sakura Hills. Sakura Hills. Hey. I could learn how to spell. Pretty easy par 3. They've changed this hole too. They've redesigned it. It's not as easy as it used to be. This hole right here, layup shot, right to that black, right in. Stay a little bit farther to the left, you'll have a straighter shot into the cup. This right here is a hole that I actually do a dunk on. If I get this hole, I'll show you that shot. This hole right here is a difficult par 5 because it's difficult to get up into. You got to be out there. You definitely bring a big power ball when you're playing this in a tournament. This par 3 right here is a rough bump all day. There's a rough bump right here. And there is definitely a wind adjustment here of like 20%. There's a wind adjustment here that we need to make. And you can be up by the green all the time. Pretty straightforward hole, but they've changed this hole too, and coming up on the green. This hole right here is a hole that a lot of people will epic fail. You'll win a lot out here if you just lay up right here and then come out with a hornet. A lot of people will try and get out into these areas, and then they'll try and hit this face to go right at it, and then they'll backspin into the sand. You'll win a lot on this hole right here just by laying up and playing it safe. Your win percentage on that hole should be either you're going to a shootout or you won. Another easy par 3. In rookie play, the white line's not, the black line's going to be the easier line to go, getting out into this area, and you can bounce off the island to get on. There is a rough bump that you can do up here, but the wind's got to be blowing in the right direction, and there's not really any shot coming back around. So typically you're either going to bounce off the island or you're going to take the rough bump. All right, so we've still looked at some holes that are in there. We've done our research. So now the goal is to get into the game, let it reset. Yup. Let it reset and then go in and play that tour. So you've got an idea. If you're dropping down a tour or you're going up a tour, always go refresh your memory on what the holes are in there. And what'll happen is over time, you'll just play those holes enough that you know those holes. Tour number 3. Hey, tour number 3. So now we're going to try and put our numbers, our club numbers together, our wind ring numbers together with our clubs, and just go out and play. And so the key to playing rookie, this is one of those things of do as I say, not as I do, because I'm sure today I will hit in the rough at some point. But the key with the rookie account with lower level clubs is stay in the fairway. If you stay in the fairway and you're hitting with your better hitting clubs, and we're doing a layup, this is that hole I was talking about that we do a layup on. And so I'm just going to lay up out here in front. I don't need anything special. So I've got the wind. You can see the trees are going in my way and get really close. The wind's going away from me. I'm looking at it as a pure tailwind. And then I'm going to take out 3 rings. This club hits 1 per ring, and I'm going to take out 3 rings of wind. And just trying to hit perfect. Hit 2 rings, ring great to the right. And that won't matter at all with this club because I aimed right down the center of the fairway. I'm just doing a layup shot. I'm not trying to get anything special. Just going to the fairway. I don't have to be, and I've got a 100% accurate club. So 2 rings great to the left or the right is not going to hurt me. It's the same width as a 1 ring on an extra mile. But if you're using an extra mile and you hit a 2 ring great to the left or the right, you are in big trouble. And you don't have very good ball guide, so you have no idea on a hole like this where you're going to end up, so it's very easy to bleed out into the rough. And from most places down there, you can get on in the rough and the sand, but this green is very particular. And so it's easy to end up putting yourself in a really bad spot. Now, from where they hit, they need a backspin club because they've closed this mouth up and they have to backspin it in order to get close to the green. From where I left my shot, I am right at minimum backbone, so I can walk it up here with a more accurate club. I got a little teeny bit of topspin or headwind, so I'm going to put a little less topspin on it, or backspin. 3-4, so I got the wind facing like it's tailwind, and this club hits 1.4 per ring, so there's 2.8. That leaves me 6, and that's almost a half a ring, so I'm going to take out 2.5 rings, and I hit it great to the left. I needed to put left-hand curl on it, and I didn't do it, but that great to the left will help it get me closer, but I really wanted to bring it around by putting left-hand curl on it to try and get it facing the hole. Left myself tons of room. You'll notice when I'm setting shots up, and I don't always talk about it, but when I'm setting shots up, you'll know that I'm hardly ever less than 2 rings off of any transitional surface. There are some times on drives where I will be way deep in the hole because I know it doesn't carry any farther than where you're at. But typically on any shot, I'm always 2 to 3 rings off. If I know I'm going to use curl, I usually try and be 3 rings off. We'll see if they get any of the rollback effect. The thing about this hole is that you can end up with this putt, and these putts right here are at just the right distance that they can start to cause you a little bit of problems, where you really have to hit them perfect. You can't get away with a great to the left or the right. And so this is a hole that if you do that layup right there, you'll be on every time and 2, get a birdie. That's the minimum score on this hole. And your opponent, even though my opponent's in a spot where they have a putt, they have a much more difficult putt than I have. And you'll find a lot of opponents will epic fail on this hole, and you'll just win it outright. Good game. That is obviously not going to happen today, because Sammy wants to go to a shootout. This hole, we'll see how it plays. It used to play where you'd come down into this spot right here, and you'd put on you'd make micro adjustments, just a little bit of topspin, a little bit of backspin. I think it was a little bit of topspin, and it would roll up towards this hillside, and there was a funnel, and it would just drop, and no matter where it came off of that, if you had the right speed, it would just funnel right down towards the cup. And they changed it, and they put this little depression, you can see, that runs through the center. You can see that terrain feature that's in there. That terrain feature is now off the hole, and it used to be on the hole, so everything wants to feed off to that side, so it's kind of hard to keep it up to get it to the cup. It's not impossible, but it's a lot harder than it used to be. Let's see if I can remember the topspin, backspin. I do know that when I take shots, I'm always 2 rings off of any transitional surface. So a lot of times when I'm taking these shots again, and it's been a while, I know that, hey, I may be off one way or another, but I know that that's the start spot, because I always like to be a couple rings off of any transitional surface. I'm just feeding towards the cup. 2-2. So I got the wind facing with me, just like it's tailwind, and I'm going to go, that's 2.8. I'm going to go about a ring and 2/3, somewhere in that neighborhood. Hit it 1 ring great to the right. This is all about speed. If I got my speed right, I'll be close. That's the thing is, if you can figure out, like when you're trying to figure out these par threes, the first thing you need to focus on when you're on a par three on these shootouts is speed. So when you come into these shootouts, if you're playing in a tour, you've only got 3, 6, 9 different par threes that you have to remember how to play. The main thing to remember how to play on those is speed. So like remembering that, hey, I come here and I need to put on a couple backspin or a couple topspin, and that what the speed is, then if you hit a great to the left or the right, you're still going to be super close to the hole. You're just going to be off a little great to the left or the right because the speed was right. So speed is super important. That's the first thing you want to learn on all of those shootouts is what's the speed got to be so that I can stick on the cup. I'm going to open up both of these because I want to be able to rematch people. I don't want to waste an opportunity to win some clubs. These Tour 3, Tour 4 chests have been opening about 24 to 26 clubs in these common chests have been opening 23, 24, 25, 26, somewhere in that neighborhood, commons every chest. So when you're talking about trying to do the club card trading, you need 300 cards. You need to open up 10, 12 chests. The gold chests are a little bit better. With the clubs that I have here, I will have better luck with my extra mile as far as distance, but see if I can get up into the spot. I want to give myself as much room in this fairway as possible. So I know I'm off to the right, but I want to give myself enough room for a great to the left or the right. I'm going to take out, now because of those trees, I'm coming at it from the opposite side. I'll talk about that here. It's 2-2. I'll put just a little teeny bit of curl on it just to bring it back to the fairway on the left. And I hit it great to the right. And the great to the right, I should end up fine because as long as I can get out of that. Just because a 2.5 great to the left or the right is a lot. You can see how little ring set I had down there. If you've got an upper developed quarterback, that's absolutely a quarterback hole. Because in most cases, the wind's not going to be blowing favorable enough for you to be able to try and get on it too, unless you bring out a big ball. But if you're just doing the layup and going to get on in 3 and take your putt, then you can come out here with a quarterback and end up in a very similar, if not better, spot. I think during tournament play, I played this with a QB. But a QB that's got a little bit more topspin than that level 7. QB really doesn't start to shine until it gets to 8, and then at 9, you start to see why a lot of people like the QB. And at 10, it just gets better. My opponent made it up there nicely. Avoided that rough. It wanted to go to the rough. See which way the wind's blowing. Got a somewhat favorable wind, but I have no shot. You can't go up there and try and get that on there. And I think maybe with a big dog, you might be able to get enough topspin to bridge the gap, but it's very unlikely. So since we're having to do a layup shot here, I don't want to mess around. My opponent may be wanting to go for it, but the deal is just put it up in the center. At this point, you're obligated to try and get on in 3. And so we're going to have to do a layup shot up here in order to get up to the green. So be safe. Hit it right dead center in the middle of the fairway. You don't need to get all of the distance on that green. What you need to do is be in the fairway to give yourself the best next shot to try and pick up that eagle. I was trying to get a little greedy there. I should have brought out a QB because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to get up there with a Viper. If I brought a big dog, I might have been able to get up on there in 2. Might, but I was pretty short on the first shot. And you really do want to get all the way up in there. So I'm right at the red line. I got very little curl. 1.9. At max, it's 1.2 per ring. That leaves me 7. There's a half. We're just a little over a half. So 1 and a little over half. And hit it great to the left. If I was going to hit it one way or the other and it still go in, it would be great to the left, because as it goes down that slope, it's going to want to drift to the right. But that was definitely great to the left. This is a tough hole to chip into unless you bring a super side spin ball. Because if you bring a ball that's got lots of side spin, you can try and come at it from the bottom down here and try and side spin it to the left to keep the ball so that you're coming into this cup on the flatter part of the green instead of trying to come down that hill like I was. Go into a shootout. You're going to go to a lot of shootouts, so learning those par threes is really important. And you'll have to take your lumps until you play a few. Like when you go to a new tour, you're playing new holes, you'll have to take your lumps. If we're playing new holes for a tournament, really you want to have your cash flow. And I need to do a video here where we talk about cash flow, because the last thing that you ever want to be worrying about when you're out here playing or practicing for a tournament is cash flow. Because you get on one of those holes that's in a tournament, it's got a max overpower hook shot. You want to be able to go out there and do it, and if you don't make it, it doesn't matter. You've got to continue to practice those shots. And it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. All right, we got the island. This is a famous island par 3. And on the island par 3, we do a 10% wind adjustment. I like to be about 3 rings off. And they changed how this hole plays too. It has a little pad that cup is on. It's on a little mound. It's hard to get to. So we're gonna do 4-6. It's 1.7. So there's 3-4. Leaves me 1-2. Or somewhere in that range. What would that be? Tell me whether I made a great wind adjustment or not. It was whatever that wind was divided by 1.7. That's how many rings. Was it 4-2? So that'd be 4-6. 3-4. That leaves 12. 12 is about 3/4 of 17. So about 2 3/4 rings, and that was pretty close. The great to the right didn't help me. And a great to the right on this hole or a great to the left is pronounced. So if you get the wind rings right, because of how the hole is, when it rolls up onto that backboard, it then feeds off on whatever side that was. So if you hit a great to the right, where it lands, it's great to the right. But by the time it gets up the hill and comes back down, it feeds off to the right. Same thing on the left. And the left is actually drifting a little bit closer to it. It used to drift off even harder on the left. You can see how it's on a mound right here. It used to be on flat. That whole green area was flat. And so when you hit it up there, if you got the trajectory right, it was all over that hole. Good game. See if they'll rematch. Rematch. You have to look at these holes when you're playing these holes in one-on-one, totally different than when you're playing in a tournament. When we're playing in a tournament, we're trying to get the lowest score on there. So we're bringing out the best equipment, and we're setting that shot up on that hole. We came in there with a game plan. But when you're playing one-on-one, the whole goal is to beat your opponent. And the best way you can beat your opponent is by always being in the fairway, getting onto the green, making your putt, getting the minimum score on every hole. So like I can come out here and dink around on some of these holes and blast it out there and have fun on it. But your main goal, and if you got really bad wind here, you can do the bounce over. But somewhere out here, you're going to switch clubs, so be aware of that. But you can do the bounce over from here if you've got really bad wind. You want to be as centered in that fairway as possible. It's 2.5 per ring, so this is about 2/3 of a ring. Hitting it perfect. And you can do a max overpower shot here and try and get it up, but it is easy to get off the green here if you're off trajectory. What's funny on this hole has been redesigned too. One of the things they changed on this hole is it used to be if you were in the second cut of the rough, you were out of bounds. And so if you were in this darker shade of rough, you were out of bounds. You only could really play the fairway in the first cut of the rough. And so it was easy on this hole to get out of bounds. Really easy. And when they did the redesign on it, they changed a few things. But the one thing they did change is the out of bounds. I think the water is now out of bounds, and that's it. There's several other holes in the game that are like that. There's one of the holes in Tour 7. That's a pure layup shot that you can get an Albie on. It's a pretty good Albie par 5. That hole, when you're making it, it's a dog leg to the left. All right, I'm in my Kingfisher, so I know my Kingfisher numbers. There's 2.4. It's 1.2 at max, so I'm right dead center. And I know, because I know my numbers on this, that it hits 2.1 per ring when it's at mid club. I'm just going to dial it to the hole. 2.1 per ring, that leaves me 5. So that's about a ring and a quarter. So there's a ring and a half. Make sure I got that wind facing right. And then there's about a ring and a quarter. Try and put it in the cup. Hitting it perfect. Give myself a look. Get in the hole. In the hole. Woo! That's what I'm talking about right there. The whole goal is to come onto these holes and put yourself in the perfect spot to pick up a shot. But your goal coming in was to get the birdie on a par 4 like this and put yourself in the perfect spot to pick up that eagle. And just because you have low developed clubs, if you got the right clubs in your bag and you know your club numbers, the only club that you really do need to have your numbers as far as mid, max, and minimum is your short iron. So I know that club hits 1.2 per ring at max. And so I take 1.2 times 1.75, and that's my mid number. So with that club, it's 2.1. And then at max and mid number, it's 2 times as accurate. So it's 1.2 times 2. So I play my short iron so that they're 75% more accurate at minimum, or excuse me, at mid, and 100% more accurate at minimum. And I've had a lot of luck with those numbers with both this Kingfisher and my Hornet. Pretty much, and my Claw, my Thorn, whenever I'm using them, that's how I play all of those clubs, and I have had pretty good luck with my short irons. I don't know why I just stopped that. How much time do we have on that one? Let's look real quick. I want to do like 30, 40-minute videos. I want to get some gameplay out here so that we can talk about regular gameplay. So that was a 28-minute video, so I'll add on, and we'll play one more hole on it. One more hole. I want to get some regular gameplay so we can talk about it and you can ask questions. So if you've got questions about this stuff, I can go back and cover those. The whole goal here is to set yourself up so that you can go out and start thinking minimum score. Don't think about, I was thinking pick up the eagle right there because I put myself in the right spot. So if you come out on these holes and you think, hey, just put yourself in the right spot so that you can get on the green and get this is a par 5. We want an eagle. What's the easiest way to get an eagle here with the clubs that we have in our bag? You can do the layup shot that my opponent's doing. That's not a bad choice, especially from where we're at. Like if you try and get over to this side right here, you really want a club that's got some backspin and some curl. You really want a ball that's got side spin. So hitting it straight forward like this isn't a bad deal. And my opponent, I think, is going to give us a free shot. So I have a free shot here. So I'm definitely going to play I'm definitely not going to want to put them back into the game. So I'm going to do a layup shot. I just need to get to the tip down there. I'm going to put some backspin on it so I can stop. I'm going to be right in the middle of that fairway. I'm going to take the wind out. I'm going to add a little bit on. And don't worry about your opponents going, wow, like you're wasting my time doing all these setups, dude. Why aren't you just hitting the ball down there? Hey, dude, I'm not the one that just ended up in the water. I'm playing to win chess, and it's not about the trophy count or anything like that. It's what it's about is winning those club cards. You need to get your common cards maxed out so that you can start participating in the club card exchange and that prism chest. So a lot of people are going up to Tour 7 and trying to get all of their clubs, and having all of your clubs is great, but coming into Tour 7 and trying to get all of your clubs and having 3, 4, 5, 6 of your commons maxed out is huge. Let's see if I can get up here with my Viper. From that spot over there, that gives me the best angle with the equipment that I have. So I don't have a lot of side spin on my ball, so I can't do a lot of stuff with it. I just want to get up there. I just want to limp up on the green and get my birdie or my eagle and move on. So it's a Viper. It's 1.7 per ring. So there's 3, 4. I'm going to do a full 2-ring pull. That's 3, 4. I'm going to lean a little to the left. Hitting it perfect. And my opponent was flashing me there. Hey, dude. End up in the green. The green stuff, not the dark green stuff. A little bit of overshoot. You will find with lower level accounts, you'll bleed off the green like that because you don't have the ball guide to walk you to it. You're trying to figure out what the distance is, and so you keep overshooting stuff. As long as you're not in the rough and you've got a Firefly, you can dig yourself out of that hole. It's really important when you get your hammerhead that you try and get your hammerhead to like level 3. And I know that the very first time I went up the scales, I played with a hammerhead for a long time. I got my sniper, and there was times on some holes where the sniper was a little bit better. You know, I got my hammerhead to 2, and then I got a sniper, and the sniper goes up a little faster because it's a common card. And the hammerhead goes up so slow. There was times when I played with it, and the hammerhead's got ball guide. That's the one thing you're missing with your wood. Getting it perfect. Using that Firefly as a poor man's rapier. Doesn't have much, but it's got ball guide and topspin. That's all you need in a wedge. You will be amazed at how many times you will come out to these holes and win by just playing from the fairway to the green and just playing for the minimum score. I mean, I really do believe that you'll win about 50% of your matches just out on the course with a marlin ball and a set of clubs that you know the wind ring numbers for by just laying it up in the fairway and getting on the green and moving on. And in some respects, you'll think when you're playing sometimes I'm like, I need to bring out some bigger stuff and just go out and have some fun. The whole deal is that you're trying to build that muscle memory so that when those holes come up in a tournament, you go, okay, I know how to get the birdie every time. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to set myself up for the hole in one, or I know how to get the eagle. I'm trying to set myself up for the albatross. And you'll be able to put yourself in that spot for the albatross every single time because it's like, this is super easy. So I'm not trying to be, when I say that getting the minimum score is super easy, if you go out and you play these holes like this, and you get used to playing the holes like this, you're putting yourself in the right spot every time, and now you're getting to bring out better equipment. So you're going to find that the minimum score is just like second nature. That's why anytime I drop a shot, drop a hole, it really like, you know, like I try not to yell and scream when I'm doing the videos, but I mean that really like point blank pisses me off. Because it's one thing to go out there and not pick up the eagle that you were trying to get, or not to pick up the albie. So I'm trying to demo shots for you guys to show you like how to do the thing. And it's one thing where I don't pick that next shot up, but that's a whole nother story when I go out there and I don't shoot the minimum score, because I should be able to shoot the minimum score with my eyes closed by just doing the basics. And what our opponent just did right there is not part of the basics. I'll show you with a cube. Let's see if we can do this with a QB. Our opponents let us back in the door, so let's see if we can get this done with a QB. I think that next shot will be really difficult, but we'll do it. Okay, the way that wind's blowing, that wind's going to blow me forward 2-2. And so that wind could be beneficial, but when you first start, if you're having problems with wind, always take the wind out. Just get in the habit of taking the wind out, and then as you get more proficient, you'll know how to add that wind back in. And just take the wind out and just do these layups. Let's see if I can get on from this spot. This is real. This will be a really long shot coming up there. You typically want to be at least halfway from where I'm at to the next rough patch in front of me. This rough patch right here, you'd like to be at a minimum somewhere out in this area. So this is typically a better club, better job for a big driver, your extra mile. But let's see if my wood has got enough distance to get me over there. And I think I may have enough distance, but the deal is I won't have enough topspin. We'll see. It'd really be cool if I was in the right spot, because coming out to a hole like this is another one of those holes that if you do that layup shot, and my opponent is, I got another free shot. So even if I can't make it from here, if I can't make it from this spot, I might just be able to. Maybe just. If I had that QB just a little teeny bit higher, it'd be a nice little shot right there with a little teeny bit of topspin. And I'm going to try and eke around 2.5 rings off of that transitional surface. So I'm 2.5 rings off of any transitional surface there. I'm right in the middle. It's 1.7 per ring, so that's about a 1 ring pull. And I'll put curl on it to try and bring it back to the cup, but I'm not going to put all that curl on it. Hitting it perfect. And what I want is to bleed off right there. Give me a nice little chip on. It's nice to know that you can make it from out there with a QB. If you've got a little bit higher developed QB that's got just a little teeny bit more topspin, that'd be a really nice spot. And you don't have to do any overpower there. You don't have to do anything special. Now, if you had a headwind, you'd probably want to bring out an extra mile. The risk with an extra mile is if you put on too much topspin, you would bleed off into that rough if you got a hold of it. So by shooting it there with the QB, the lesson to be learned is that you don't have to get that far out there with your extra mile. You just need to get it out there. You don't have to press the limits. You got plenty of room on the other side. Okay, and from this distance, wind may play a factor. I'm going to hedge my bets. I'm going to stay in the cup. It's about maybe 3 miles per hour to the cup. Isn't it perfect? If it hits the flagpole, I got the wind right. And it hit the flagpole. So the wind, from that distance, the wind did play a factor. You can tell from that first bounce. So like from wherever the first bounce is to the second bounce, that's the only bounce in that shot that was affected by the wind. So it's just a very little teeny bit. All right. We're on the second video, rate golf class, not now. How much do we got on this one? Okay, I'm going to play one more. We'll see if we can get another gold. You get 4 golds here. So right now I'm just trying to get some gameplay in. And you guys have got your club numbers, and I want you to go out there and pick one of these lower tours and just go out and work on your wind stuff, just making those adjustments. If you don't have a ton of coins, go to tour 2. If you got a little more coins, go to tour 3. But go to one of these tours down here that doesn't matter. You're not even thinking about coins, and just come out here and practice your wind. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose. It's all about just trying to lay yourself up. All right, we're back on this par 4. This is a layup shot. I'm going to take the wind out. It's 1.0 per ring, so it's a little shy of 2 rings. 1.0. Numero uno. El primero. My goal is to get right past this tree that's right here. I want to get right there. That's perfect. I'm right on the edge of that tree. So normally I come at this with a Hornet, and I take the same exact shot because my Hornet, I'm actually in my Hornet range. Here I'm going to be in minimum backbone. And bounce from the bottom here. So my first bounce is down below, and my second bounce is on the top. So I'm not trying to engage that hill at all. There is a way, if the wind's blowing right, you can do a max shot here through the trees on the other side if you bring a big enough ball, and you can be on in 1. I'm not sure if that way is still open, but there used to be a way that you could get up there in 1 from the backside, but you had no idea where you were going to end up. You come through these trees right here and come through this area and bleed through up here in the back. And I know I'm at minimum club just because I've taken this shot a bunch of times. I got a little bit of a crosswind, so I'm going to do just a titch of backspin. Just a titch. 2.0. It's 1.4 per ring. So there's 146, so we're just a little over 1.5 rings. And then I'm going to lean a little bit to the left. Hitting it perfect. First bounce is at the bottom of the hill, and the second bounce I'm already past. I'm already through the part of the hill that can really adjust your trajectory. I've made that, and this is always a heartbreaker when this particular hole is in tournaments, because I am super close every time with my Hornet, but I don't get a lot of I don't pick this shot up all the time. But when I'm playing this hole in 1-on-1, I hardly ever lose outright on this hole. I mean, it's typically they're going to have to shoot that because I hardly ever make mistakes on this hole because it's a freaking layup. And people who come at it from that end down there end up having to do the backspin, and it's very easy to backspin off the screen and end up in the rough or in the sand and give yourself a super hard shot to try and get the birdie. And so you'll find yourself winning a lot on this hole. Just outright. Had to drink some coffee there. I needed some energy. My opponent should easily be able to make that in the hole. Birdie, birdie, forcing a shootout. So once again, the goal is to win 50% of your games out here in the field and win 50% of your shootouts. So that gets your winning percentage. That'll make it so that when you're opening up chess, because you're trying to get chess to make your clubs better, and the whole thing is to maximize your time. So you'll get much better at this game when you're playing 1-on-1. If you're teaching yourself how to get minimum score on every hole, give yourself that opportunity to pick that shot up. And if not, see if your opponent epic failed. If they didn't, go to the shootout. But you'll win a lot just out here on the course if you just play consistent and stay in the fairway. That shot's going to be really close. I got you covered. I got this. Been a long time since I played this hole. Okay, I'm at max on backbone. I'm going to come back just a little. The wind blowing in my face. Okay, so I'm going to put the wind so that it's running away from me. It's 1.4 per ring, so there's 2.8, so that puts me 5 off. So it's about a ring and 2/3. I'm way down a hill, so I probably needed to over adjust that a little bit. Isn't it perfect? Just trying to feed up there towards it. In these lower level tours, if you're having to make massive adjustments on these par threes, where you're having to put a whole bunch of stuff on them, I think you're playing them wrong. Because these lower tours are designed for lower developed clubs. All right, I'll keep playing for a gold chest. All right, you're forcing my hand. One more. I think that's going to take one more to get it. If you're playing in these lower developed, this is for, you got lower developed clubs, so you shouldn't need to have a lot of backspin or a lot of stuff in order to get onto these holes. It's always best when you can figure out a way to come to them. I like to do in tournaments, I like to play some par threes where I play them super aggressive with a backspin club, and I try and get on the green, stick it, and give myself a shot at picking up the hole-in-one, and if not, just move on, because I think those are super low percentage holes, and the way that you can do the hole-in-one is also the way that you need to be when you epic fail. So last time I was here on this hole, I used my extra mile. This time I will, or my QB, this time I'll use my extra mile and show you the distance difference. What you don't want to do on this hole or any of these holes is use overpower if you can help it. Sometimes you're forced, the optimal shot takes overpower. But ideally, you want to always try and come to these holes without doing any overpower. Okay, so I want to be 2 rings off of any transitional surface, and I'm aimed right towards that transition down there. It's 2.5 per ring, so there's 2.5. That leaves me 5, so that's about 1/5 of a ring. So 1 1/5. And then I'm going to put curl on it, all the curl that I have. Isn't it perfect? And the deal is that if you put that curl on there, unless you hit a 2-ring grate to the left, you will not hit that rough on the left, because the ball is coming in. I was aiming straight at it. As soon as this hole's over, I'll draw this out. I'm going to draw it out right here. You're ordering straight at it, and you're coming in like this. So you're coming straight at it, and you were coming in the loop. And so the grate to the left is going to put your landing spot 1 grate to the left, but the ball's still going to the right because you put that right-hand curl and that right-hand side spin on there. So the ball can't help it. It has to go to the right. So by aiming towards that, I gave myself 1 ring grate to the left and a 1 ring grate to the right and a perfect, and I would still have ended up in the optimal spot. So when you're setting these shots up, never pinch yourself where the only shot that you have is a perfect. I'm always at least 2 rings off of any transitional surface. Now, as it arcs, as it goes on the arc here, if I put too much curl on it, it'll clip that rough. So 3/6, there's 3/4, so we're just a little over 2 rings. So I'm going to put a little curl on it to bring it back towards the hole. But I don't want to put too much on it, because I could bring it around so much that it clips that rough right there. And just try and bring it up towards the hole. So just a little teeny bit of curl. See if my opponent can get out of the rough. Never count your coins in this game. Just because somebody's in the rough or in the sand doesn't mean they can't make it. Because I don't look at the rough and the sand as being a shot that I can't make. I just made it more difficult on myself because the needle's going to be going faster. But if I hit perfect, I got a serious shot of it going in the hole. 99. Put the ball to win. All right. That was a little bit of one-on-one play, just going out and playing some one-on-one just to test out the numbers on our clubs and to kind of show you, just like when you're playing, you know, if you're playing with bigger stuff, I see people pull out bigger stuff all the time and they have a tendency to try and overpower and do all this crazy stuff on these holes. And the deal is, when you're out here playing, no matter what level you're playing at, if you're playing T7 or below, and it still works if you're playing the higher divisional tours. If you're playing Tour 8, Tour 9, Tour 10, Tour 11, you're going to have to bring out bigger balls. But when you play, you still want to be thinking of minimum score. That's where people go wrong. That's why when you're in T7 or T8 or those tours, T9, people are out there going crazy for it. And it's like, dudes, the whole goal here is we're not playing in a tournament. We're not trying to set that thing up perfect on that high risk shot. I'm trying to beat you to win a chest. And if you play to the fairway and then play to the green and stay out of the rough, you will beat a ton of people. Just beat them out on the course, because there's so many people that make mistakes because they don't know how to adjust that wind, and they don't have the right clubs in their bag, and they don't know how to use the clubs that they have. I always like it when people bitch about not having clubs that they want. I always wonder to myself, okay, do you know how to play the clubs that you actually have? All right. That was lesson 3, just talking about just some gameplay so that we could see some gameplay. And if you guys have made it all the way here to the end, you know, put some comments in there about stuff. Like if there's things that you're having problems with, put it on there so that I can shoot a video and we can talk specifically about things that you're having problems with and try and address those issues. Because I really want everybody out there, whether you're in the Kings of Golf in our clans or if you're listening to the channel from another clan, I want every single one of you guys to be able to shoot the minimum score this next tournament. And I just want us to just go out there and just play for the minimum score. And that's going to help you get in the right spot to pick up shots so that you can exceed that minimum score. But we need to start with just the minimum score. All right. Thanks for watching.